Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast. I'm Janey Lee Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi, I'm Janey Lee Grace, and welcome to Alcohol Free Life, the podcast. And just first of all, before we do anything else, a big thanks to everyone who came to our event last Monday. It was so good. We had such a lovely evening. It was not a huge audience, but it was lovely, actually. And it was just so great to see some people there that came the time before and some brand new people. And our guests were just great. We had Dr. Richard Piper from Alcohol Change UK. And it was just really interesting hearing his take on the work that they're doing with that charity, trying to reduce the harm done by alcohol. And Richard has a very kind of different take on it all, because he's really trying to put across the message that not everybody necessarily wants to quit drinking. Some people want to accept that they are drinking mindfully, or that they're occasional drinkers, or they're reducing down their alcohol. And the most important thing is that they're changing the conversation around addiction, which is amazing work that they're doing. And of course, the conference, the Alcohol Change UK conference, is coming up on the 19th, Wednesday, the 19th of June. I'm going to be speaking or hosting part of that, so really looking forward to it. And Elsa Frank was just great. She's a hypnotherapist, behavioural change expert, and she was explaining to us some of the work that she's done over the years with people who are drinking more than they want to. And she did a little kind of guided visualization, a guided hypnosis with us. And it was great, really uplifting. So that was really cool too. And some of you will have received my a little email with a PDF of various resources and bits and pieces on. If you'd like a copy of that, just drop me an email or a message, give me your email address, and we'll send that off to you. And the next Self-Care for the Sober Curious event will be on Monday, June the 17th in London. So if you can get to that, put it in your diary. It's going to be good. It's going to start an hour earlier at 6 p.m. Because we're going to do some little taster treatments for, if anybody wants them, we're going to get someone to do some sound healing, Reiki treatments, whichever therapist we can persuade to come along, really. And it's still free, of course. It's all hosted by the charity My Yard. And our guest speaker is Jo DeRosa from Quantum Sobriety. Absolutely fascinating, inspirational woman. She was a cocaine addict and a big time drinker for a long time, and she's been clean and completely free from all addictions, actually, for just over 6 years, I think. And she's really inspirational. She runs kind of retreats, if you like, rehab almost, but everything's done with meditation and yoga and mindfulness, and amazing work that Jo DeRosa and her husband Dom are doing in Suffolk in the UK. So come and hear Jo speak, come and join in on some of our taster treatments. As usual, it's a case of going to Eventbrite, type in Self-Care for the Sober Curious, and you'll find you can book on to the next event. We've got a different kind of podcast this week. It's not because I don't have guests, because I do. I've actually got a few guests kind of lined up. But this week I just thought that I would just chat to you. I hope that's all right, because some of you may have seen on Instagram, I've just been so rocked, really. My world has been rocked this week by seeing Rocketman, the movie. And I don't know if anyone's got to see it yet. I hope that the stuff I say won't be too much of a spoiler for you. But I just really wanted this week on the podcast to just share some of my thoughts from seeing that movie, and just pick up on some of the themes that are obviously very apparent in it, and what it reminded me of, if you like, or what's been in focus for me. So I got to see it first last Saturday night, because I got invited to an early press screening, so that was fantastic. I got to be there. Zoe Ball was there, and Sober Gals Together, and it was just great. It totally blew me away. I just absolutely loved it. And then last night I saw it again with my family. So I've seen it twice in 5 days. and it doesn't get any less amazing the second time, actually. So for everyone who, I mean, everyone knows Elton John's music, of course they do, and everyone knows he's a genius and absolute kind of Mozart of his day. Really, the film really reminds you of that, and it's a standard biopic in the sense that it's it's the rock star's life, addiction, it all goes bad, it gets better in the end. So you could say it's that predictable biopic. But for me, it was a world away from other kind of biopics that I've seen. Personally, I thought it blew the Queen movie out of the water. It was so brilliantly done. It was sort of, it had its amazing fantasy elements and beautiful styling, some real magical direction and just gorgeous cinematography in there. But it was all set against this very real backdrop of Elton's addiction. And I'm sure you'll have read reviews even if you haven't seen it yet. So I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say that, the movie opens with him sort of crashing down a corridor. You think he's going to go on stage, but actually resplendent in his kind of devil wings, he's actually marching into a recovery room. He's in rehab, and that's the kind of backdrop to the various scenes of the movie. We hear him share various elements of sort of key points in his life that took him to where he is, and it was so moving. It was such a moving film. And I know I know there'll be some people listening to this, the classic, I bet his parents messed him up. And, we all know that phrase, don't we? They fuck you up, your mum and dad. And of course they do, all of us to a greater or lesser extent. But we do see in the film that Elton's childhood, while on the surface, was okay, particularly his specific relationships with his parents, left him wanting, for want of a better word. His mother was very distant. She was there, but she was distant. She was detached. And the real message that comes through the movie is that his father wasn't available to him. He was there when he wasn't working away, but he wasn't emotionally available. And I think this is such a critical thing, really, that so many people, when they start to think about ditching the booze, you have to then start looking at what are the reasons you might have been trying to numb stuff out in the first place. And I think for many of us, originally we just think, well, actually, I haven't had that terrible an upbringing or whatever. It's just that I started partying and then I kind of got into it and couldn't stop. But in almost every case, when people carry on drinking and it becomes daily and it becomes too much, there's always things that you have to look at. I mean, I'm not trying to do any psychotherapy on you, far from it. I found this movie just really highlighted the importance of needing to do a bit of work on yourself as you get older. Now, of course, what's really interesting is for those of us who are parents, you feel this overwhelming sense of responsibility for how you're parenting. And, you see the little boy who's Elton in the movie, kind of asking his dad for a hug, and that wasn't forthcoming. And you see the amazing characterization of his mother, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, fantastic actress. We got to interview her a few days afterwards, and some of the lines she comes out with, you just know will be imprinted in his mind forever. When a mother says, "Oh, I wish you're such a disappointment. I wish I'd never had children." That stuff's really big, and it's imprinted on you as a child. And as an adult, unless you kind of go back and make sense of it, which Elton, of course, does over the course of the recovery program, he comes to forgiveness. He eventually comes to the point where he can forgive his parents. But it's funny, this kind of sense of, if you're a parent, are you getting it right? And of course the answer is probably not. What a huge responsibility it is to be a parent, and to wonder what you're saying to your children that might then affect them in years to come. I mean, the only thing that I have learnt over the years is that the more work you do on yourself, the less they have to do, if that makes sense. One of the things the film really reminded me of was the importance of, as I say, looking back at your family of origin, looking back at the really honouring the importance of the family. And I never used to feel this way. I had some issues myself with my upbringing. There was mental illness in my family, and I removed myself. I thought I could manage perfectly well on my own, and I removed myself from it, sort of emotionally and literally. I changed my name. I stayed in touch, but I was not emotionally invested, if you know what I mean. And certainly my relationship with my mum was very difficult. She used to press every button, and I felt a little bit bitter and twisted all the time, even though I never showed that. And I don't think I even realised it, actually, until my husband pointed it out when she would maybe come and stay with us when my kids were young, very, very young. And even the children would notice, actually, just how spiky I became when she was around. And it was because I was actually hurting inside. That was the truth of it. But I had no idea how to deal with it. I think I did have some counselling sessions just before I had children, because I didn't want to pass on any kind of angst. But I had a few counselling sessions, and I really thought I'd dealt with it, actually. I think if you'd asked me when my children were very young if I thought I'd done enough work on those relationships, as it were, I probably would have said yes. But the reality is I hadn't at all. And it's not until I came across something called family constellations that I really realised the importance of actually properly looking at your family of origin. Now, I know everyone can't do family constellations, but I do think everyone can really, really honour, well, for want of a better word, honour the people that brought them into the world. And even their country of origin is really important as well. If you don't know what family constellations is, I'll just tell you a bit about it, because it's absolutely fascinating. I first came across it about 5-6 years ago now, and someone told me about it, and they said, it's a workshop, and so there's a lot of people in one room, and then individuals present their issues, so there'd only be so many issues in one day, with a therapist there, and then the group are involved in the sort of outworking of this issue. And I'm describing it badly. It's actually very difficult to describe what it's like. But when you rock up, effectively, you've got a church hall or whatever it might be. And the first one that I went to, there were probably about, 28 people, a mix of men and women, all different backgrounds, all different ages, all different kind of professions. So there really wasn't any, these people didn't have anything in common other than they'd been drawn to a family constellations workshop. And kind of by lunchtime, everyone was sort of sobbing and hugging, and it absolute emotional roller coaster. And so what it basically is, it's been described as emotional healing for the family, or even I've heard it described as homeopathy for the soul. And it really is incredible to be an observer, even if it's not your issue that is being addressed, to be an observer or to be a participant in other people's entanglements, if you like, these problems that affect everyone, that come from family entanglements. And in a very, very short time, you can see a complete change in perspective, which can literally change lives. I mean, I've been to many of these workshops now, and I've seen it happen time and time and time again. It was a work that was started by a German-born psychotherapist, Bert Hellinger. And there are a lot of people that do say it's revolutionised the heart and soul of family therapy, because it looks at the destructive, the loyalties that lie in families. A lot of it is unconscious. There's a lot of stuff that we carry, all of us, from our families, and even from past generations that we're not even conscious of. And Bert Hellinger observed that traumatic events, so deaths, the premature death of a parent, or certainly the death of a child or a baby, or the death of a sibling, abandonment, when there's crime in the family, when there's suicide, when there's abortion, all of these really big life events can exert this really powerful force that affects not just the people right then, but even later generations. I mean, this is the study of epigenetics, of course. Some of you may have seen the BBC documentary some years ago, Ghost in Our Genes. And that talked about this whole concept of epigenetics, and it added a whole new layer to genes, beyond DNA, that can cause these inheritable effects in humans. So, it's not just a propensity to have diabetes or whatever that we inherit from past generations. It's how trauma can live on. And so it really is about entanglements that come from the past, and then family members can continue these patterns. So patterns of anxiety or depression or guilt or unfulfilled relationships, chronic illness, all of this stuff can be carried on. And I work with this amazing practitioner, Julie Toms Arbell. She's an incredible family constellations practitioner, and she talks about how this work is it's able to tap into what needs healing in the complex family structure, rather than trying to heal the past. It heals the impact of the past on the present. Because we can't change the past, of course we can't, but we can heal its impact on the present. I'm aware that I'm probably not making it very clear exactly what it is. I actually wrote a piece for Spirit and Destiny magazine about the issue that I'd done myself. The issue I'd presented with was that I didn't necessarily feel that I was a good enough mother. But of course, then it transpired that I needed to look at the relationship with my own mother. and safe to say, at the end of that, 45-minute, hour-long constellation, literally everything was changed. Everything. It was quite incredible, actually. I came away feeling 100% different about my relationship with my mum. And to this day, I feel incredibly grateful for being able to heal that in her lifetime, I know not everybody gets this opportunity, but the amazing thing about family constellations and this kind of work is, even if we're sad because someone's passed on in our family, it's still about healing the impact, from the past. So that's a really, really long-winded way, I suppose, of saying this film really brought up for me how hugely important your family of origin is, and just how important it is to connect with that on whatever level, and to be the bigger person and be able to forgive and be able to acknowledge and be able to accept that in most cases, parents did the best they can at the time. But for whatever reason, they may not be able to be emotionally available. But as an adult, our job as adults is to be able to see it from an adult perspective, in order to be able to heal that kind of child within, as it were. And this was all played out so beautifully in Rocketman. You get to see Elton John, go through this incredibly destructive addiction that literally almost killed him, to come out the other side and be able to forgive the past. It doesn't make the actions right. It doesn't make the way he was treated or not okay. It doesn't change any of that, but it changed the impact of the past on his reality. And then there's a really lovely scene where he's able to actually hug his childhood self, as it were. And I'm aware this is sounding hugely woo-woo, and there's going to be people who are thinking, oh my goodness, go back to your interviews. But if you go see Rocketman, I really hope you will. I think you will. I think you'll get what I'm talking about. It really impacted on me. I don't know if it would have done if I'd watched it a few years ago when I was drinking. When I was drinking, I probably would have watched it and thought, oh, that's completely different to my situation. He's a pop star. He's a rock star. He's absolutely caning it. This has no bearing on my life. But because I felt it so keenly, being able to see just how easy it is for anyone, actually, you don't have to be a rock star, for anyone to slip into habits that then over time just literally bite you on the backside. And I thought it was such an amazing movie. I thought Elton is incredibly, so brave, so open to be able to share this. I mean, we all know when we first give up the booze, we feel many of us feel ashamed and guilty. And he has allowed all of this stuff to go out there, warts and all. He did that documentary some years ago, didn't he, with his partner, David Furnish, called Tantrums and Tiaras, something like that. And again, this is a real warts and all kind of depiction of what went on. And when he was asked, I think it was the Cannes Film Festival, and he did some TV shows, and he was asked what is the real message of the film. He said, I just really want people who are in any kind of trouble to be able to ask for help. I just want to show that it's worth asking for help. I've read in various news reports that Elton has said he felt it was such an important movie, so important to show just how awful that addiction was, and that now he feels so incredibly blessed that he never has to be in that situation again, and that his life has changed so massively. I think he's been sober coming up to 29 years. It's absolutely amazing. So that's my extremely long-winded review of Rocketman. And a little tip for if you ever have an opportunity to look into family constellations, I'll put a link in the show notes, or anything similar that just kind of does that quite deep work, really, where you're able to accept that the stuff that's on the surface might actually be held in your cells. It might be trauma that's literally held within your cells, and sometimes just with a little bit of guidance, that can be released, and it can literally change everything. So that's my very different stuff to share with you for this week. I hope I haven't bored you completely. We will get back to interviews next week, but I'd love to know what you think of the movie. I just absolutely loved it. I thought it was really, really moving, but magical and joyous in equal measures. And I know it's an age-old message in that movie, of course it is, but it's still just so important, such an important message that the movie is sharing. By the way, Taron Egerton, I mean, man alive, he's absolutely brilliant as Elton. I mean, brilliant doesn't cover it. He's incredible, really incredible. So what else was I going to tell you? Oh yeah, I know what the other thing I was going to say this week was that I just keep my eye on the various news stories. And there was this piece in one of the papers this week about the elixir in red wine that can ease blood pressure. It's another one of these stories where they tell us that alcohol is good for us. Now, a couple of years ago, I would have loved a story like this. I would have leapt on it. Thought, wow, fantastic. I knew I was doing the right thing, drinking way too much. Of course, all of these studies always have a caveat. Oh, always drink moderately is what they say. But there's yet again another one of these studies that's apparently found that resveratrol in red wine particularly is particularly good for causing the blood vessels to relax and expand, they say, which leads to a drop in blood pressure. I mean, honestly, have you actually ever heard anything so daft in your entire days? So, anyone where I was a couple of years ago is going to see an article like that and think, fantastic, I need to drink this red wine for my health. It will be good for my health. How absolutely ridiculous. There's that fabulous phrase that Catherine Gray uses in The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober, where she says something along the lines of, to choose red wine or to choose wine for the allegedly good for you chemicals such as resveratrol is a bit like ordering a fast food burger for the gherkin. If you want the elements of the wine that are allegedly good for you, then have the grapes. Have some red grapes or something else that has, those natural great compounds in them. But I find it absolutely incredible that we're constantly fed this stuff, and it's only when the scales drop off that you see it. I had these ridiculous it was like, the opposite of rose-coloured spectacles. It was these kind of booze glasses that saw everything through this filter of what the media were telling me. I shocked myself sometimes. I thought I was quite savvy, but I used to buy all this stuff. I used to absolutely think that this was true. All this nonsense about alcohol being good for you. What the hell? Anyway, so I have a self-care tip as well. And actually, I got this from the paper. And I don't know if this one works, but I thought this was really interesting. I saw a piece in Female, and I think I'm probably a bit late to the party on this because I think it's probably something that a lot of people have been talking about for a while. But I don't know who allegedly coined it. Let me have a look. Oh, yeah, it says here the idea has been popularized by a business expert, Adam Grant, who co-authored co-authored a book called Option B. Anyway, the idea is that instead of writing a to-do list, how so many of us love these lists of this great long lists of stuff we have to tick off and it makes us feel really important. The whole concept is that we create a don't do list, or a to don't list, as the saying goes. And so the theory is that we write down what we're not going to do. Now, you might think this is slightly counterintuitive because you're just writing down a whole load of kind of negative stuff. But what they go on to say is, in addition to writing down what you're not going to do, you might want to add why you're not going to do it. So, for example, if you decide to write, okay, I don't want to spend 3 hours this evening on social media, just scrolling through social media, then you might want to add why. Why don't you? And it might be answer because you really want to start working on the book you've always wanted to write, or because you want to actually get out into nature and do something fun. So, get the idea? I don't know if it works. It might be just yet another thing to do, if you see what I mean. It might be more pressure that we're putting on ourselves to create a to-don't list. But there you go. That's my self-care tip. You're very welcome to try it, and I would be delighted to know how it works for you. I've got some great guests coming up on the podcast. I've been lucky enough to interview Lotta Dan, as in Mrs. D is Going Without. If you haven't read it, it's such a great book. Fantastic memoir, just really funny and light, but really, really moving. It's a lovely book. So I've had the pleasure of being able to interview her. So I'll play you that interview very soon. Also, I've got an interview with Matt Smith from Talk Sport, and an interview with a musician about creativity. That's another interesting bit of Rocketman, by the way, is of course that fear comes up for Elton, that once he's got clean, he won't be as good. And this is such an interesting fear that creative people have, that once they stop drinking, they won't be creative anymore. It's quite a thing. So so I'll be talking to another Matt about that. And lots more. And don't forget, again, as always, I would love your feedback. And if there's anyone you would like me to try and get on the show, it's always worth a try. And I keep promising I'm going to interview going to have a chat with some podcast listeners. I'm definitely going to do that. It's just a case of organising when we do the interviews. But Sober Dave is on the list. Hi, Dave, if you're listening, and a couple of other people that I've agreed it would be really nice to share their stories. So thank you so much for listening to this very different podcast this week. I hope I've inspired you to go see that movie. I hope I'm spoiled it for you. And I really hope you enjoy it as much as I did. I'd love to know your comments. And just another reminder then, Monday, 17th of June is the next Self-Care for the Sober Curious event. So pop that in your diary. And it's free, and it's at the Jago in Dalston in London. Just go to Eventbrite and you can type in My Yard, which is the name of the charity who host it, or just type in Self-Care for the Sober Curious and you'll find the link comes up there. Just a reminder too that I'm doing a TED Talk, 13th of July, TEDx Norwich, TEDx Ed in Norwich. So that's super exciting. I haven't done much prep for it yet. So if you have some suggestions of some sound bites that I absolutely have to get across, then let me know. The title of the talk is Sobriety Rocks, Who Knew? So I think that tells you, that kind of sums up what I want to cover. I want to really show how the kind of positive side of giving up the booze. There are so many great TED Talks already, of course. How can anyone possibly compete? I watched that great one the other day, and I'm embarrassed to have forgotten the guy's name. It'll come back to me next time, I'll remind you. But he's the one who talks about the fact that the opposite of addiction is connection. And he talks about just what happens when they do experiments with people who are alcoholics and drug addicts, and they actually get them connected rather than fining them or giving them a criminal record. They get them connected, and the fascinating thing is that they find their sense of purpose, and their whole lives are turned around, really. So there's a lot of amazing stuff out there already, but I hope to be able to share my two penneth. And if you've got any suggestions of things you think I should include, of course it's very short, it's TEDx talk, but if you've got any suggestions, then please drop me an email or drop me a message. It's at Janey Lee Grace on Instagram and on Facebook, and of course the email is janey@janeyleegrace.com. If you want to send me your email address, then we'll add you to the list for that little PDF that we put together of just a few tips and a few resources and some of the things that I recommend a lot. I will see you same time next week. Have a great week. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol Free Life podcast with Janey Lee Grace. Please subscribe to us on iTunes, rate us, share on social media, and tune in again.